Welcome to the January 14th Cross Lake City Council meeting. We all please stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first we have to approve the additions to the agenda. Motion.
I so move.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Whoop. Roll call.
What do you say now? Approved. Roll call motion. Right? Aye.
Nevin. Peacock.
Aye.
Herzog.
Aye.
Andrews.
Aye.
Schrupp. Schrupp. Tell him.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay. Motion approved. Second is designate acting mayor. Please. Just name anybody, or is that it?
Will you say who you want?
Oh, acting? Gary Hecox. I thought I was going to say me.
I'll make
Need a
that motion.
I'll second it. I'll second it.
I think she's got a roll
All
call.
right.
No, you have to have a motion and a second first.
Peacock.
Aye.
Herzog.
Aye.
Schrupp.
Aye.
Andrews.
Aye.
Nevin.
Aye.
Approved.
Next, appoint two ex officios to the Fire Relief Association, mayor and city administrator. Motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Sorry.
Gary made the motion.
Andrews second.
Okay. Herzog.
Aye.
Schrupp.
Aye.
Andrews.
Aye.
Nevin.
Aye.
Peacock.
Aye.
All right.
Approved schedule of regular council meetings, second Monday of the month at 7 PM. Motion?
I'll make that motion.
I second it.
All right. Mr. Schrupp.
Aye.
Andrews.
Aye.
Nevin.
Aye.
Peacock.
Aye.
Herzog.
Aye.
Next is change the date of the November council meeting to Tuesday, November 12th, due to the observance of Veterans Day. Motion?
I so move.
I'll second.
Andrews.
Aye.
Nevin.
Aye.
Peacock.
Aye.
Herzog.
Aye.
Schrupp.
Aye.
All right, approved.
Motion approved. Appointment of official newspaper. We don't read those letters, do we?
But you should have read them before. You don't need to read them out loud, no.
No, I don't want to read it. So
What
is there
was
a-
it? It was the Northland Press they were actually both being used, weren't they?
Yeah.
Then I'll stay the same. I'll make that motion.
Motion for both.
I second it.
Nevin,
Are we going to have any discussion on this?
if you want.
I'd like some discussion. And looking back at last year's charges, Northern Press was $600 higher than the Echo for the same publications. So I think you need to keep that in mind with the size of your notices.
One of my thoughts on the Northland Press is that it does come to everybody's house and they don't have to subscribe.
But they're still charging more for the same thing.
Gotcha.
That it?
That's all.
All right, let's take the roll call.
Nevin,
Aye.
Peacock.
Aye.
Herzog.
Aye.
Schrupp.
Aye.
Andrews,
Aye.
motion carried.
Okay, number 5 is appointment of city engineer. I'll make a motion on that, if that's all right. And the motion would be to retain Bolton Mink as the sewer and have WSN be the city.
Well, you need a second, so I'll second it so we can have discussion if needed. Does Ted have any input, or?
Ted? I don't. You got anything to say to that, Ted? I don't know.
Can you repeat the motion?
To appoint Bolton Mink as the sewer and WSN as the city engineer. So
I'm having a little trouble hearing.
So did you hear any of it? No?
He can't hear. Is your mic too far away, Dave?
Can you hear it now?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think if you go a little slower, it all kind of blurs together, so.
The motion was to appoint Bolton Mink for the sewer.
Is the motion to retain Bolton and Mink to finish the sewer plant?
Correct. And WSN as the city, the go-to engineer.
And be the city engineer?
Yeah. So both of them.
Something that wasn't right.
I don't think you heard it right. Go ahead, Ted.
After the mayor and I had a discussion a couple times now on this, and this next year, we don't have a lot going in as far as our roads. The big one we have that we'll be talking about a little bit later here is the Storm Pond up on Manhattan. As far as the sewer plant, we're in pretty deep with the Bolton and Mink right now, and we want to keep going down the path we are. We are still working through some problems. I think both firms will work out well for us, and we'll go from there.
Okay, anything else?
Not for me.
Ready?
Yep.
Hecox,
Aye.
Herzog,
Aye.
Schrupp,
No.
Andrews,
Aye.
Nevin,
Aye.
4-1. Pardon? Well, Dave, can you hear anything?
I was very unclear on the motion, and you guys are talking and I can't hear. It worked fine this afternoon.
Well, we're in a lot bigger room with a lot of people.
Like, I can hardly hear you now.
Should we just cut them out? I don't know.
I rest
What do
my
you
case.
guys want to do?
Yeah, I don't. Cut it off, you mean?
TJ, is there anything you can do to?
It's just, I don't think the signal's strong enough for my phone.
If that was turned more toward you, maybe he would hear it better.
It's coming from the speaker.
Oh, it's up here is where it's coming from. Okay.
I don't think we wanted to disrupt the meeting.
Can't hear us.
We can try it.
See if it helps.
Does that help, Dave?
I can hear you, yeah. Is it the speaker you added? That's the only thing that changed.
Well, the motion passed, so I think we just move on.
Okay, the number 6 is memo dated Mayor Nevin, commission liaison appointments. Do we list them now, Shower, or is it just
You can read it.
off of the F1 or the F?
B6.
Here.
Okay, I hereby recommend the following liaisons assignments for 2019. Building and Grounds, Dave Nevin. Economic Development Authority, John Andrews and Dave Schrupp. Park and Rec, Gary Hecox. Personnel Committee, Dave Nevin, Gary Hecox. Mike Liney's, and one of the non-union employees.
Right now, it's Eric Lee until you
Eric Lee.
change it.
Planning and Zoning Commission would be Aaron Herzig. Public Safety, Dave Nevin, Chip Lohmiller, Eric Lee, and Mike Liney's. Public Works, Dave Schrupp, Dave Nevin. Recycling, Gary Hecox. And Emergency Management Director would be Police Chief and Fire Chief.
Any discussion?
Any discussion on that?
Herzog?
Aye.
Schrupp? Schrupp?
Sign language.
Andrews?
Aye.
Nevin?
Aye.
Hecox?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, then the next one is the
Aye.
commission appointments.
Not working the best.
Do you have that commission appointments, B7? I don't know why I don't have those here.
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 Okay, number 7 is memo dated January 10th from Mayor Nevin on the commission appointments. And they be planning and zoning would be Bill Schultz for his first 3-year term. Jerry Voles for his first, right?
No.
Oh, fill Aaron Herzog's appointment until 1/31 of 20. And Matt Cooker would become an alternate. The Economic Development Authority, Dean Fitch, first 6-year term, and Patty Norgard as an alternate. Public Works, John Pribble, second 3-year term. Doug Fiersba, second 3-year term. Gary Villala, alternate. Tom Swenson, alternate. Marcia Voles, alternate. And Gordon Wagner, alternate. Park and Rec, Mick Cheetah, second 3-year term. Gary Villala, appointment to first 3-year term. And Daryl Shannon, appointment to first 3-year term.
Also move.
I second it.
All right, Andrews?
Aye.
Nevin?
Aye.
Hecox?
Aye.
Herzog?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, next is the consent calendar. All items here are listed to be, considered to be routine by the city council and will be acted on by one motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a citizen or council member so requests.
Looking for a motion? I'll make that motion.
I second.
Are you ready? Andrews?
Aye.
Nevin?
Aye.
Hecox?
Aye.
Herzog?
Aye.
Oh, we don't need to do that anymore.
Thank you.
Oh, we don't?
No, because Dave hung up.
So this addition, Shar, is missing a page on it.
What?
The additions you gave me?
It's not front back?
No, I got 2 pages and this got 3. That's all right.
There's no addition. Front, back, front.
Hang on, this is back. Okay, D is critical issues. I think it's Gary, I believe, from Northern Railroad Heritage Association would like to come up. Is it Gary?
I'm Gary Phillips, and I'm one of the co-presidents of the Northern Minnesota Heritage Railroads, probably better known as the Northern Trackers. We had moved into the Pineberry Plaza, and 2 days later, it burned, and we lost a lot of equipment, and the owners chose not to rebuild. However, they did decide that they wanted to donate the land to our organization. And we happen to be a 501c3 nonprofit. And we have decided that we would want to build on the property that is there, on the foot that we have, the foundation that was there. And just kind of wanted to tell the city what we had decided and what it was going to look like. Now, I gave out some drawings. It's going to be a old-fashioned railroad depot, which will be rather unique for Cross Lake. And we have decided that we would like to start construction here in February and hope to have a building that is weather-tight by Memorial Day. That is our target. That's what we call our Phase 1. We've done fundraising, and we've been able to fundraise enough to get that part done, and we will continue to fundraise during the rest of this time to do Phase 2. I don't know if you guys are really familiar of what we are. We've been here 12 years. WCCO said we were the best kept secret in Cross Lake. We are open to the public, and we draw over 4,000 people a year. And we are only open Saturdays and Wednesdays in the summertime, so we do very well. We work with the community, we work with the library, we have a traveling layout, which we do. We work with Camp Cave, we work with Pequot's summer vacation classes. We've done things with the Boy Scouts. We help them on their patches that they have. We keep a layout that we take care of in Pine River at the nursing home, and we try to be very active in the community as much as we can. And so that was really what I wanted you guys to know, what we're going to do, because it's going to look very different when we start it and we build it. And we just hope that you as the city will be happy with what we do, and that's about it.
Do you have
Any questions?
anything with the Historical Society? Do you have any?
Well, we do. We have a lot of historical stuff which we were able to save from the fire, which will be in their museum-type things. We do a lot, our layouts themselves depict history, and what we do is we show and teach everybody about railroading and how it's done, what it looked like, how it's changed, you know, that type of, we do it like our education type thing.
Okay, I mean, there's a lot of history of the railroad in Cross Lake.
Oh, yes, and Brainerd and everything.
Yeah.
Actually, it's going to look very much like a Northern Pacific station, is what that's our target to do.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you much.
Sure.
Thank you.
Next is Sheila Haverkamp from the Bladek presentation. Come on up.
So good evening. Sheila Haverkamp with the Brainerd Lakes Area Economic Development Corporation, and thank you for putting me on the agenda and having me here this evening. I meet with your Economic Development Committee frequently, as well as working throughout Crow Wing County, including the community of Cross Lake, to encourage economic development. And Bladek is also a 501c3, and we were formed in the mid-'80s, and it was a group of business leaders and community members throughout Crow Wing County that came together and said, you know, what can we do to be diligent in our efforts to spur economic growth and prosperity and work towards diversification, job opportunities for people, tax base, and private sector investments. And so the Bladek organization was formed. And what we're doing at this time of year, specific this year, is going out and having various meetings with stakeholders like Cross Lake. Cross Lake has been a significant supporter of the organization over the years. We've had the pleasure of working with several projects in Cross Lake. And in fact, this past year, we set up a unified fund, and we assembled $2.9 million, including some of the revolving loan fund dollars from Cross Lake that in turn went to the Crow Wing Power utility company, and in turn is now part of that unified fund partnership. And in fact, our largest loan to date was made in the city of Cross Lake to one of your companies. And so we're working diligently, even though you don't see us regularly at your city council meetings. We're in the field working with companies and prospects. And our mission has never changed. It's been to help companies grow and expand, create jobs for people, and build our communities. And in this packet, this is a PowerPoint presentation, and we shared with your city administrator a list of different meetings that are going on throughout Crow Wing, where we'll spend more time in the depths of this PowerPoint, as well as have dialogue conversation with any stakeholders who choose to attend. And I would like to invite Cross Lake reps, but as an economic development committee, we also thought it would be good if I came before you and just did a really short presentation. So that's why I'm here this evening. So I'm not going to go in as much depth, but I wanted you to know that we're here. We're working hard, and we tend to think about economic growth in a three-prong approach. How can we help new companies start in our community? How can we help our existing companies grow and expand and hopefully keep them here? And then how do we attract companies from outside the area to make investments? And we work a lot with companies that don't necessarily compete with our local providers, but are actually companies who are selling beyond our local jurisdictions, so that hopefully there's more revenue and more people shopping at all the shops and bringing prosperity for all. And we have a board of directors who our membership chooses, and so that information is included in the packet. We work with the companies in a variety of ways. I like to think about it as a funnel, and so where are the prospects coming from, and that can vary dramatically. It can be, from a referral from somebody who lives here. It can be from our website. We have a robust website. It could be from one of your networks or connections, and you refer them to us. It can be a lender. It can be some of our marketing strategies that we put into play. But once we get that prospect and we connect with them, how can we help them so that they can make investments? And that ultimately helps us accomplish our mission. And so I think about it as the funnel. We got to get that prospect identified. We got to get them interested in our area. We got to find a site or facility to meet their needs. And eventually, it oftentimes results in some role of financing. And there is various financing programs that exist to help companies at a local, regional, state, and federal level that work in partnership with banks and equity. Some of them are incentive financing. Some of them are just access to capital to help make that project work. We wanted you to know we're out there, and we're doing, hopefully you think, good work on behalf of your community and the entire area. One of the things that we have done, in addition to what I call the traditional economic development work, is some special initiatives. And on slide 8 there, you can see some of the special initiatives. And the one I like to mention specific to Cross Lake is our exec program. And our execs were individuals who retire to our area and or have retired and want to give back their expertise and help us move forward with our economic development programs and efforts. And Cross Lake has generated quite a few execs for us, so that's pretty exciting too. And they might be working throughout Crow Wing, and the execs can play a variety of roles. It can be helping provide one-on-one consulting or counseling services to a prospect. It could be identifying a lead for us. It could be, most recently, we have been doing some work with what we call natural resources in our midst, and so we have a couple of execs who have really started to study what natural resources we have as far as like minerals and aggregates and mining materials, forests, et cetera, and really trying to understand what we have in Crow Wing County and how we might create economic opportunities around that. So the execs just play a whole array of services and help to us. And then, of course, our unified fund, we have gotten very engaged in workforce. In fact, we have hired a workforce specialist, and this workforce specialist, we're unique in that they will actually work with our companies to go find what we call key talent. So talent that oftentimes we have to bring from outside the area in order for that company to have the expertise they need to continue growing here. And since Mike has joined Bladek about 2 years ago now, he has placed 23 people. So he has brought 23 key talented individuals to our midst, more than 40 people to our marketplace, and helping our companies continue to prosper here. We had one of our companies share with us that they set up an operation in the metro area because they couldn't get the key talent they needed. And we had the companies come to us and say, we want you to start up this program, because if we can't get the talent we need here, we're going to start expanding elsewhere. So we respond to the companies and what their needs are. Our work plan priorities, I was hoping that I would get feedback, and so this is what the Bladek Board has identified for their work plan priorities for 2019. But we want any feedback. So if you think there's something else we should be thinking about from a high priority perspective to result in our mission, please give me a call. And then also what we're doing is talking about funding of the organization at these meetings. You know, our funding in large part is our local units of government as well as the private sector. Currently, government, local units of government are about 48% of the annual budget, but then we have private sector members and a fee-for-service program. And, you know, that was set up some years ago, so we want to reach out and talk to people. We have some people express concern about the way the organization is funded and should we be making some adjustments. So we want to have that dialogue. If people feel we need to realign some funding strategies, we want to hear back that is the desire, so we can try to determine how we can go forward. So with that, I thank Cross Lake immensely. I look forward to working with each and every one of you. I've appreciated the opportunity to work with Councilmember Hecox and others. So thank you again, and I'm available for any questions you may have.
I have one question, Sheila. What's your geographic area that you mostly do? Is it mostly Crow Wing County, or
Yep,
do
it
you
is
span
Crow Wing.
outside that, or Crow Wing?
It is Crow Wing because most governing units of county jurisdictions throughout greater Minnesota are served. So for instance, Cass County has their own economic development group. Morrison County has their own economic development group. Todd County has theirs. So we serve Crow Wing, but within Crow Wing, we tend to look at it as like three really neighborhoods: the Brainerd-Baxter, the Lakes Country, the Lakes area, as well as the Cuyuna area. And the Cuyuna area formally has their own economic development group, but then they contract with Bladek staff to provide all the services. So Bladek is working throughout Crow Wing.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Sheila, where is your home office?
Our home office is in Brainerd. We actually share an office with the Brainerd Lakes Area Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
So we can share meeting rooms and equipment, et cetera, and make it more affordable. But we are two separate organizations, each with our own staff.
Okay.
But I travel throughout the county. You'll see me regularly. So I should say my car.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
I would suggest that you give us quarterly updates or something like that as to how things are going.
At the council level, you would like me to? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I would love to. And if you ever have something specific you want me to talk about, please let me know. Because you'll read frequently, you know, at a statewide level, various economic development strategies. And we're staying abreast of them. We're trying to bring as many of them to the local market as we can. And we're frequently working with companies, because ultimately that private sector investment is what helps move the economy forward. I look forward to it. I'll reach out to your staff and get on future agendas.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Bladek's annual meeting is Monday, February 25th, and it is a luncheon meeting, and you'll be getting invitations, and please attend if you can. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. Okay, next we got the pickleball group here.
I'm Peter Graves at 14131 Sugarloaf Road. I want to start out just by apologizing if I misunderstood the purpose of last week's special meeting. I understood that it was to bring any issues before the council that had a financial impact, were important to the community, and what to do about it. I'm not minimizing any of the critical issues that you were dealing with at that meeting. I think those are all essential to the growth and stability of our community. I was simply raising one other issue that I thought was important for the council to be aware of. And that has to do with the outdoor pickleball courts that are under development. And it's not, I'm not here to sell the committee on that, because I believe that the park board has already decided this is a way to go. The community center is working on the project. They have the ground prepped for construction for this spring and summer. My concern was that it's my understanding that $30,000 has been budgeted for that from the city, with the expectation of about another $30,000 coming from fundraising and the community to put together, which is a total of $60,000. And I'm concerned that that may not be enough money to develop what we were expecting or planning for. And I wanted to raise that as early as possible to the city council to be aware of that as projections come in and decisions have to be made about the cost structure. So that's my purpose of being here. I can certainly answer any questions, or my wife can do a better job at answering questions.
How did the 30 and 30 come to the council for approval? Was that, where's TJ? What happened there?
No, that was in the budget talks before I was hired, but we looked at numbers, we looked at preliminary, I even did my own research, and that would be the very base. So that's kind of what we went off. We didn't do anything extravagant, we didn't do anything crazy. We already have the lights there, so that kind of takes it out of the final building costs.
But we've gone through our budgeting for the year, so we're kind of
Right.
stuck with that.
Right.
It is what it is for now, as far as I can see.
Okay.
Right?
And-
We didn't put any more in the budget or anything in your budget for it? Yeah.
And
And
there's-
again, I put together that proposal that the committee members have, again, just to give you some basic information and ideas of what the courts may cost, what it's costing in other communities, and what we're ideally looking for.
So I guess you might keep these for next budgeting year season, huh?
So the 30 will give you 2.
The
Yeah.
30, I'm estimating would give us 2
Yeah.
at this point in time.
Yeah.
And one of our, Pam Graves, same address, and thank you for the opportunity for discussing this. Just FYI, this is a ping pong or table tennis paddle. This is a pickleball paddle. I didn't know what they were when we retired here, but they gave free classes on it at the community center, so thank you for my addiction. And we continue to give free classes as the interest is there, because it's a very good sport to get people immediately to feel comfortable playing in the sport, and you can play it for many years. The way you get better is you can do it in a couple weeks. So the opportunity here for the city is great to attract people from outside our area. When we go around and talk about pickleball, they were just talking at a parent meeting in volleyball down in the Twin Cities, and they said, oh, you know, there's this new sport, which, by the way, was developed in the United States in 1965, so it's relatively new. And it's called pickleball, and our daughter said, yes, my parents play. And they're like, really, where? Cross Lake. And you go to Canada, in Ontario, we were playing, they're like, oh, the Minnesotans are so nice, and they're great pickleball players. We can be drawing people from the Twin Cities, from all around, and where people want to come in the summertime is to outdoor Minnesota, where the sun is shining. We don't want to be staying on the tennis courts, because the tennis players should have access to that. We shouldn't be limited to a couple hours a day. If people drive by and see empty courts, they should be allowed to play on them. They're community facilities. So we would like to encourage that to happen, and we just identified a little issue called money that, you know, we wanted to be aware of, so that we're going to be building, I think, TJ, adjacent to the pickleball courts, basketball courts, so that the kids can be playing next to us. They've done that successfully in Grand Rapids, in Minnesota, and it's great for drawing people around. So we're trying not to think huge, but we also want to be aware of the costs here. So that's it. We'd love to see us get as much as we can this summer and meet the needs of as many people, active people in the community as possible. Thank you.
As you picked up from the meeting last week, there's some serious money that we're discussing here, so, I mean, that amount of money has definitely got to be a budgeted amount.
Right,
So-
and we are going to be actively, someone had mentioned that tennis had been fundraising for a while. We've actually been working very quietly on getting some monies early on for about 2 years now, which is why we already have the land laid out and we've got it flattened so that it can be compacted, so when we build it, it will not crack, it won't need high maintenance, people won't be dissatisfied over time. So we're not going to ramp up the fundraising until we started to see that land there, so that when we point it for people and say, this is where it's going to be, you can actually point to like a specific spot and not kind of globally.
Start
But,
fundraising.
Yep.
We have about $10,000 pledged already from the community side of
Since-
things.
Since the meeting last week.
Good.
So we
good.
are, anyone here can pledge too. you know.
And I do know that there is some money in PAL that has come directly in. I don't know how
How much?
significant that is.
We got another 1,000, Peter.
All right.
Okay, anyone else get anything?
Yeah, bid,
And
bidding war.
again, what may happen if the budget is set for this year is that the final completion of the courts may be a year out or 2 years out, which then we need to talk about, or through the community ed.
Yeah, I would
how
go
to use
through
the tennis
TJ at the
courts
Park and
things
Rec
like
and
that.
talk about that.
And the next meeting is with Park and Rec, and they're, not count, it's your commission, that's the right word. And we're working with, and have been working with them on this project, so,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I would suggest that TJ, you bring it forward. You have, it's our land, it's whatever, or it's the city's land. I think you're the one that has to be the spokesperson.
Yep. Okay, next is public forum.
No,
No?
Oh,
Oh, St. Pat's, I'm sorry.
okay.
Yeah,
I
that
don't
was
mind.
added.
I don't mind. Good evening, everyone. My name's Laura Stromberg. I work with Stromberg's Chicks and Game Birds. I don't have the business here in Cross Lake, but I am a resident. And I just want to say thank you to the City Council in the past years, Public Works and Ted, and the Fire Department, obviously, and the Police Department, for helping us run the public aspect of creating such a large event in our city. It was concluded last year that our St. Patrick's Day Parade was the biggest and best in the state of Minnesota. I don't know if you guys all saw that on WCCO, but got a big write-up and a lot of publicity, so that was really wonderful for our city. And we're hoping to build on that success. This year is our 45th annual parade, and it's going to be on Saturday, March 16th of 2018. The Cross Lake City Chamber of Commerce, along with our 9-person volunteer committee, including myself and numerous other people, we spent hundreds of hours planning this event, from everything from the 1.5 mile long 5K or 1.5 mile long parade to the 5K, which is PS 5K. And organizing the pot of gold, the raffle prizes that is over $10,000 every year that's donated. We have 150 businesses and organizations that are represented in the parade. And Cross Lake is recognized by thousands and thousands of visitors into our city for this celebration that we host. Recognizing that this event of this magnitude really does come with its own challenges. We've already been working with the Cross Lake Fire Department and the Police Department. Thank you very much for your participation in that. And we'll keep you abreast of every step of the process and what we work out together. This year, the Cross Lake Fire Department will host its famous pancake breakfast The Clover Dash 5K will begin and end in Town Square. The parade will commence at 2 p.m. from Town Square and end at CNC Boatworks. And I personally invite each and every one of you to be there and participate. You can volunteer, you can come hang out with a committee, you can come to one of our meetings, you can rally for donations, or you can just ride along the parade or cheer on the sidelines. I invite you all to enjoy this amazing event that we host. So tonight, what I'm looking for from you all is your approval to utilize the Cross Lake City streets for the Clover Dash, the St. Patrick's Day Parade, and that all again is happening on Saturday, March 16th this year of 2019.
Do we have a motion to approve that?
I'll move.
I'll second.
All right, one more year.
Well, we have to vote first.
Go ahead.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, okay, he's not on.
Thank you very much. Do you guys have any questions at all?
Is there anything else? Are you going to have to come next month for anything before the parade?
Nope,
You're
your
all done.
approval is all we needed, so thank you for that.
Perfect. Thank you. Hope for good weather.
Yeah, cross your fingers.
Okay, now we got the public forum. No action will be taken on any of the issues raised. If appropriate, the issues will be placed on the agenda of a future council meeting. Speaker must state their name and address. Each speaker is given 3 minutes. Does anybody want to come up for public forum? I'm timing it.
Tom Swenson, West Shore Drive. Just a couple comments on your consent calendar and future transparency. This agenda has 36 items under consent calendar. It's interesting that you would have the newspaper as a separate item, but what was it? The legal services and designating official depositories. You approved a professional agreement with Bladek. And another one on there is the park year-end report. I think the citizens would, like to have TJ come up here and give a report for the last year on the park. Some of these other things, you make a special motion to review the engineers. However, the legal services are just approved under a consent calendar. Were Breen in person and Johnson, Killen, and Seiler even asked for letters with rates. In the past, every year we got a letter expressing their interest in what the hourly rate would be and if there's a retainer involved. I just think some of these things.
Some of
I've
that
seen
stuff,
this-
Tom, is, I mean.
Well, I know it.
Yeah. But as far as being public information,
I agree with that, but if you're going to have a meeting like this, to make one motion and approve agreements, I think some of those should be broken out as separate agreements. I mean, why would you break out the engineer in the newspaper, but you don't break out legal and professional services with Bladek? It doesn't make any sense to me that you would.
I mean, there is a statement that any council member or citizen can request it to be pulled.
I realize that, but when you walk in here and get an agenda handed to you.
Right. You'd have to look.
And you're looking at it and, 36 items on the consent calendar, I just think that's a little excessive, that some of these items deserve their own space on the agenda for discussion.
And we did that to hurry along and consolidate and move the meetings. I mean, that's the reason back.
You have one meeting a month, why do you have to try to get it down to an hour, hour and a half? I mean, if it's city business and you want disclosure and transparency, some of these items, I think, deserve more time. That's my piece.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Anybody else? I'll close public forum. Now, the mayor's report, we got approved the form, Water Quality Sewer Committee. Last Monday, we had a meeting, and we decided to make up committees for these two groups, the building and the water quality. So the water quality, I'll go first.
Do you want to get a motion to
Should I list the people there first or not? I mean,
form the committees?
Yeah, or get a motion to form the committees? Okay. Can we
I'll
have a
make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Now, do I want to list who's on them?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay, the water quality, who signed up for it is Daryl Swanson, Mark Wessel, Mick Cheetah, and Bob Perkins and his whole water quality group. And then three more that came in were Amy Wanabo, Daryl Shannon, and Daryl Snyder. The first meeting is going to be Wednesday, January 16th at 8 a.m. at the Community Center. The Emergency Services Building Needs Committee consists of Bill Schultz, Dan Hegerston, Mark Wessel, Marcia Bowles, Doreen Galloway, Kevin Sedevy, Tom Swenson, Mick Cheetah, and Daryl Schneider. And that is meeting tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. That's that,
Yeah.
January 15th.
Some discussion.
Any discussion on that, those committees, or?
Water quality is going to be the third Wednesday of the month
Okay.
for everyone's.
Who all, are only these people invited, or does council attend these? How does that play out?
The council is going to be on the building committee, all council members, because everyone had interest in that. But I think only Gary is on the sewer,
Water quality.
water quality. And Dave when he's back. Okay,
I think Schrupp's on it too.
okay.
He's calling in.
Okay.
So how are we going to handle the committees? Go ahead.
You're turning them around on me. The one on Wednesday is where everybody's invited? Tuesday. Tomorrow morning. Okay.
Tuesday, tomorrow morning.
Okay.
And that's the building needs.
Okay.
Now, something, and I think this is probably an appropriate time, I would like to ask the council, we need to talk about a few things. I'm kind of under the impression that we may not be having a meeting in February.
Do you want to vote on these appointments?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that, and then probably roll into that. So there's a motion?
No.
No, we'll have a motion on these appointments.
I so move that we set these two committees up.
Well, we already had the motion on, no, this is the actual people on the committee.
And that we approve the name, people who've been appointed.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Now, should we roll into that next month? Should we do that now? I don't know. Is it on the agenda anyplace?
It's on number 2 and 3, kind of, under the mayor's report.
Oh, okay. So that's next. So these meetings were set up, the water quality is the third Wednesday of the month, and the building needs is tomorrow morning, and that committee will set up additional meetings. The goal is to try to get through with this thing and not drag it out for a year. We've set a no more than 6 months to come back to the council with a recommendation. I think 3 of the council members are going to be gone next month, so it's going to be hard to have a quorum. We're probably not going to hold a meeting. So what I would like to ask the council to do is to authorize me, I've contacted this drafting gal at Simonson Lumber who would draw a plan of this existing building as it sits for about $1,000. And what that'll do is give us a good tool to work with, assessing the building needs. So,
I guess I'd like to see the committee meet first before we do that. And if the committee wants that to happen, then I'd be good with it.
so we're not going to have the council together after that. So how do we do
But you'll
that?
have the council together at that meeting, right?
Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, well, we could do it. Go ahead, Chip.
Mr. Mayor, we already have plans for this building and the addition.
No, I did look through them, but they're hard to put them all together. There's a lot of plumbing, electrical, there's a lot of stuff on them.
Okay?
We could use them, but
Well,
they're
I looked
going to
at-
be
I found one
difficult to
yesterday,
read.
was that Friday? That was, you could read perfectly. I found one on Friday.
Is that
Bring
the
him to the
whole
meeting
building?
tomorrow.
Yeah, well, okay.
Can you bring it tomorrow? Because I haven't seen that
It's in
one.
the city hall, yep.
Okay, all right, we'll talk about that tomorrow.
Well, to follow that logic then, if your goal is to potentially vote on an expenditure tomorrow, just make sure at the end of the meeting, we somehow continue this meeting and clarify that the full council will be at that meeting, and so we can,
I published a special.
did you already do that already?
Council meeting.
Sorry,
notice.
I didn't know if you had.
Yep.
I figured if you thought of that ahead of time, maybe, but.
The only reason I'm trying to do that is to save, it's really going to be 2 months before we get back here, and I'd like the committee to be able to keep working in the absence of. So
Okay.
that's the reason for it.
Okay.
I am confused on this, Shar.
Okay.
Well, Mr. Mayor, aren't we maybe looking for, sounds like you've assumed this maybe, but looks like you want a motion on, you've already declared we might not have a meeting in February. Is that we're not going to do Skype anymore? That's on the number 2, as Shar mentioned. Is that, I think we want to formally vote on that idea.
Okay, well, I was real skeptical on the Skype, and tonight kind of reiterated that, but I would move to make an motion not to allow Skyping on the meeting. I think we're elected officials. I think when we got voted in, the public assumed that we would be here for meetings, and I'd like to make a motion that we not allow Skype on the meetings.
Based on the results tonight, I'd have to say I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Nevin, second by Hecox. Any conversation, any discussion?
One advantage on Skype when it works is it gives you flexibility for whatever reason to be able to have a meeting in case quorum isn't here. I agree. It'd be nice to have us all in town always, but sometimes we have vacations, family reunions, sickness, whatever. I think the council voted in December to try it. The question is, how long do you want to try it? And if you want to end it tonight, that's up to you, and I agree. Tonight, it did not work at all.
Kind of disruptive.
For tonight, it clearly was. Is there a way to make it better? I don't know. But I think it gives you some flexibility, and it also means any council member who's not here can listen into what happened.
I don't disagree with that, John, but I don't think, if we got in the middle of February and we had to call like an emergency meeting, I think we'd try to make that a combination, but I think we've had enough notice now that we can make plans for it. And we can always do it in 3 days' notice, call a meeting. Is that not right, Char? If we had to? So I would, instead of relying on it to be kind of business as usual, to use it as a real exception if we needed it.
I'm agreeable with the exception issue.
I would like to see that put into writing, because when you have just motions like this going on, it becomes a moving document of whatever the council wants that month. And I think you should have that put down in writing when Skype is allowed, or when it's allowed. I think that's the term.
So how can we word that? On an emergency basis?
Well, yeah, on an emergency basis, or on one individual basis, or you can state that there always has to be a quorum here in case what happened tonight happens. There's a number of ways it can be worded. I'm just saying, we need to put it in writing so that there's no confusion for the future. And, this happened in transition, so, I'm not faulting anybody. It was a tough go of things. So I think for the future, it will help future councils, plus ours.
Yeah. Well, if there was a quorum here, then I would be a lot more agreeable to it, but to me, it's just real disruptive, and I know it's a thing of the future, and people use it all the time for meetings and whatever, but I think it's real critical sitting up here to see these people in the back and listen to them, and I just don't believe that you get a real sense of that when you're gone. So
It was a tough go.
I'm against it, and
Yeah. But I think we need to have a draft come back to us. Okay, Mike? If you want, I'll help you with it. Okay?
okay, so just leave her lie until the draft comes
Yeah,
back.
and we'll come back, and it'll be March, but I mean, we'll come back with it.
So what do we do in the meantime? Just cancel the
Well,
February meeting?
Oh, I don't,
Or
that's
do
a
we
different discussion.
have 3 of them on there?
That's a different discussion.
Are we allowed to speak tonight?
It looks like Mr. Perkins is
Is this
coming
public
up.
forum?
Go ahead,
I just want
Mike.
to
You got some
encourage
input.
the council to think this through a little bit. Skype didn't work tonight, but that was pretty much because of coverage. It said several times that he was out of coverage or poor coverage and to switch to audio. I don't know that you have to have video. I wouldn't get stuck on the term Skype. There's a lot of collaboration software out there. You can do screen sharing. There's a lot of technology that you can take advantage of. A voice call tonight would have worked perfectly. You know, yes, we wouldn't have been able to see him, but that was distractive, in my opinion anyhow, to see a huge face on the screen. But to be able to hear him, and if you're going to do a roll call vote, it gives you the flexibility. We're in a seasonal community as well, and all of us work pretty hard in the summer. We look to take a little getaway, perhaps, when it's cold up here, but just something for you to consider. I wouldn't, you're stuck on the term Skype, but there's a lot of telecommunications that you could use for this purpose.
That would be the appropriate term then.
Yeah, thanks.
I'm a little old-fashioned though, and I kind of think that if you're going to assume this position, you should be here. I'm sorry, but I think you get a lot different flavor of what's going on when you're here and you're not 1,000 miles away, so.
But
So
the-
what do we do with the February meeting then? Do we Skype it in and try it
We have a
again?
motion on the floor right now for Skype.
Well, are we going to?
You need to vote.
Yeah, I've made the motion.
The motion on the table, I think, is just to eliminate Skype, meaning it would not be available for a special meeting. If you want to have more options, you can always come back later, or you can just vote to deny this motion, and we don't have any action taken, and you can bring it back whenever you meet again. But you need to, somehow, like Shar said, you need to resolve the vote somehow.
Can we make a motion to suspend Skype until we have an agreement?
Well, the motion on the table, I think, is just to get rid of it,
To
which,
not allow Skype, that was your
which is
motion.
pretty much the same thing, because with any motion of a council, next meeting, you can reverse what you did last meeting. So it's the same effect. Nothing says, even if you say we don't want Skype anymore.
Okay, but if we
come
drop it
March,
now,
you can
then
say
we're
we
going
want
to
it
have
back.
to Skype the February meeting. I mean, that's because that is what the plan is right now, right? So if we drop it, that's what we're going to do.
You can, yeah, you can just, if a majority of you think we just get rid of it, doesn't mean you can't bring back ideas in March and try again. You know, you
We
can,
can still cancel the February meeting. We don't have to
Yeah,
Skype it.
okay.
Am I understanding correctly?
right, and I think I'm hearing at least some of you not want to just completely forget about it for years to come. I mean,
Yeah.
have more discussion and maybe talk about it again in March. But for now, if 3 of you say, let's just not have a meeting until we figure it out, you would vote in favor of the motion.
Okay, well, that will be my motion.
I'll second it.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed?
Okay. Motion carries 3-1.
But now, so we're canceled the February meeting or not, or is that a
That
separate
was
motion?
just for Skype.
That was just for Skype. So now we need to discuss the February meeting?
Well, I think 3 councilmen are gone in February, so that cancels the meeting. We don't have a quorum. Correct?
If you want to just, if you already know the answer to that, then we could just state to the public that unless you want to try to change the date and work a different time in February, you should just tell the public right now, we're not going to have a meeting in February. And, you know, vote on that just to make it clear so you got the record.
So is that a motion to tell
I would,
them, or?
why not? Then it's just very clear.
I'll make a motion to inform you that we're not going to have a February meeting.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
I would like to say one thing. We used Skype for 6.5 hours today, in a small room. It worked very well, but there was only one person on it. And I don't know how it's going to work with two or three. And it didn't work at all with one tonight. So there has to be some refinements made or something.
Well, let's talk about that. I think a quorum would certainly make it, because then we could just cancel the Skyping if it didn't work out, but.
You know, I would agree with Gary's comment on that, if I may. We used it for quite a while today for union negotiations, and it worked really well. In fact, we wouldn't have been able to make the progress we did without it. One of the things we noticed when using it is we were connected to it, which is what was called our guest network. And what we noticed when we moved into the council chambers, you know, everyone's got one of these. And when you've got about another 35 or 40 items connected to the guest network, it pretty much shut. It started to, you know, we just saw the juice sucked out of the network tonight, and we don't know if that's what caused the issue or if it was on the other end. So we'll do a little more work on that with our IT people and figure out what's causing that problem, because it worked really well today. We had no issues with it earlier, so.
Okay, anything else?
You have item 3, then?
Yep.
Oh.
So along with that, we need to approve the payments to be made in February.
I so move.
That we authorize the mayor to make those payments, am I correct? Or how does that work?
Yeah, how do you?
Authorize bills to be paid, and we'll bring you a list of retro bills that were paid in March.
Okay. I'll second the motion.
Okay. So we won't take a look at them at all. Okay.
Vote.
Andrews made the motion. Herzig, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Dave, you will see them because you're going to be
Yeah,
signing.
right, right. Okay, city administrators report.
Okay, thank you. We'll skip right to item 2 since item 1 was removed from the agenda. My item 2 is listed as G2. It's a memo from me requesting the council to remove TJ from probationary status effective January 30th, 2019. That date marks 6 months, is 6 months with the city. In my opinion, TJ has been proven to be an effective department head and leader, and has earned the trust and respect of his staff and that of the community. The reason I'm asking for this now is because it's questionable whether we'll have a meeting in February, and we'd like to take care of our staff, so we would make this effective January 30th, should you approve this tonight. So I'd ask for a council motion and action to remove TJ from probationary status effective January 30th.
I so move.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Second item, personnel related, is to accept TJ's recommendation to remove Corey Nelson, a park maintenance worker, from probation, similar as to TJ, effective January 23rd, 2019. And there's a memo on the backside of that page from TJ making that request. So if I could, I'd have a council motion and action to remove Corey Nelson from probation effective January 23rd.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the last item under my report is an update on union negotiations. And if you came into City Hall today, the negotiating committee was myself, our attorney Jessica Durbin, labor attorney Gary Hecox, and Dave Schrupp. And we were able to reach a tentative agreement with the Teamsters today. We had about 6.5, maybe a little longer hours of meetings on today, going back and forth. And so what I can share with you now is we do have a tentative agreement with the Teamsters. Well, the next step that'll happen is our labor attorney will reduce that new agreement to writing, and we'll review that on both sides, and then once the union formally approves and signs that, we'll bring that to the next council meeting for approval. So I'd like to take a quick moment to thank Gary for your efforts on the union negotiations, for both union negotiations and Dave Schrupp too. We were able to do AFSCME with 1 day of meetings and come to an agreement, and we were able to accomplish the same thing today with the Teamsters. So thank you, both of you.
I should also thank the union rep. She did a wonderful job, both meetings.
Yep, that's a good point. I didn't mean to leave her out. She did a great job in negotiating both of those agreements for us. All right, so unless there's any questions for me, that's all I have to report.
Nope, sounds good. Okay, commission reports. Chip, do you want to offer that, or do you want me just to read it? Okay, the fire and police department would like to offer tours to the public on Tuesday, January 22nd at 9 a.m. and 6 p.m. And they would ask that the people who would like to go on the tours sign up for it so they know how many people are coming. And the tours are along with this building discussion that we're doing, the needs assessment. So that's just an offer from the police and fire. Planning and zoning, John, are you here? Yes.
Good evening. I have one item for you that has two parts. The first part is that we have a recommendation from the Planning Commission at our last meeting to approve a preliminary plat for Sundance Ridge. That plat involves these two areas right here on the map. When they did the original plat for this, they left those as placeholders for additional buildings. Lot number 5 right here was built on just this last year, and they're planning to build on lot 6 in the future. So the preliminary plat is to subdivide those placeholders into 4 units each, so they can be sold separately and they can get addresses from the county. They are also asking for approval of a final plat because this structure is already complete. They want to split that up into 4 different units, and they can't get addresses or anything or sell it individually until you approve the plat. So asking for a motion this evening to approve the preliminary plat and to approve the final plat for Lot 5. They will be coming back in the future for Lot 6, once that's completed.
And this is just following through with the whole plat, that's why all the rest of them were done.
Correct. They've already paid all the park fees, they've already paid everything. It's just to approve the subdivision of that lot number 5 so the units can be sold individually.
Yeah. Is there any questions on that?
Any particular issues for the city by splitting them up or not? It's just
It was their plan originally to do this. It's taken them 14 years to get to that point.
They did the first phase, died for 14 years, now they're just going to finish what they started.
I believe we've had Brad look at it, and
Thank
there
you.
are no issues.
Okay, does somebody want to make a motion to approve?
I so move. I so move.
Sorry. Second?
Second. I second.
Aaron, seconds? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Public Works, Ted?
Good evening. I have one thing before you tonight. The joint project that we're talking about with the retention pond at Manhattan Point in 66. We're to the point right now, we haven't got anything official, but it looks like we received a significant grant, the county and us, to do this. Thanks for the help from Melissa from Soil and Water, and the Water Quality Board that worked on this project. But we're to the point where we got to start talking about getting the engineers and doing final design and the easements. And so at this time, we have an engineering services contract from WSN. $92,000 to $94,000 is what it's estimated to be. With that, we'd need a motion and to move forward with it and have the mayor sign and go forward with this, fixing this drainage problem we have. It would be, remember, it's a joint project between the county and the city.
So does the county assume half of that cost?
Half
so
of
the
the
92 to 94 is 46 or 47 to us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, there's, go ahead, Mike.
If you turn a few pages back into this document, you'll see, if you could put that up on the overhead, Ted,
Yep.
probably 4 pages back, there's a cost sheet in there. Nope, keep going. There you go, that's the right one. Now go down to the bottom of that, if you could, Ted. The bottom is, $465,000 for the total project cost. This is the engineering services portion of it. The city's share of that cost, our latest estimate from Melissa at the Soil and Water Conservation, is going to be somewhere in that $70,000 neighborhood. So while we have to sign the contract, there are shared costs in this, and this is one of those shared costs for the project. Okay?
So the city's total cost is going to be 70?
The city's share of the project should be in that $70,000 range, depending on what we find out for easements. Right now, we've already gone ahead and are trying to figure out what that easement's going to cost us, whether we're going to need to buy an easement or acquire fee title to that portion of property.
Okay, but I'm sorry, but the total project cost is 464.
Yes. The project, 464, 7, 40, 89.
That's the estimate.
That's the current estimate as we stand today.
City's share of that is 70,000? So the county and others are picking up the rest of it?
Correct. There's some grant money available, and then the county is participating too. But somebody needs to contract with the engineers. And because we're running that grant through the county, we're the lucky ones that get to sign the contract to get the project done. So we're the project leader,
Yes.
if you will, on that contract. So we'll be managing the contract. The
Is
city
there
will.
a schedule on it at all, or are we just moving forward with the?
Well, once the negotiations of the easement or the, whatever it ends up being, then we'll come back with a hard schedule of that at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But until we get that negotiated, we don't know.
Yeah, we could obtain fee title to the property in a day, or it might take 3 months.
But there
or we
really
could
won't
work
be
out an
any
easement.
disruption to traffic or anything when that goes ahead, right?
There will be disruption,
There will?
yes, in that intersection.
I mean, we did put the big
we did
pipe
put the
underneath,
pipe
underneath,
underneath.
underneath the road as part of the Manhattan project. when We
Right.
did the road project. But there still might be some things that are,
Yeah, right. But the majority of it is the road won't come up.
And I'm hearing that you're saying approximately, you're not saying exactly,
Right, because we don't have final numbers yet, because we haven't gone out and bid this.
but it'll be somewhere in that
It'll be
low
somewhere in that
70s
range. And that's one of those projects where we know we have another project that will be delayed. So we can move funds around to accommodate this. And one thing we were trying to do is, if the funding's in place, we have all of our ducks in a row, so to speak, there's really no reason to wait to get it done. We can still get this done in 2019.
Good, I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. May I just comment that this is just another step on trying to keep silt and phosphate out of the lakes. And we've already done one up on trout, and so thanks to all the people that have managed to get this one this far, because this is a pretty big one if it works.
Okay,
is that it?
you're good to go.
I got one thing, if I may. At the last meeting, last Monday, we talked about the water quality, or the wastewater study that some of you I see have with you. Phil Martin and I were talking, and I'd like Phil just to give a brief kind of idea of, everybody kind of assumed that this is, all of these sewer projects got to happen now. This is everybody to understand, please, that this is looking at probably the next 25, 30, 40 years. I mean, don't assume just because we tried to identify areas that when we got there, we could do. And that's, I just don't want anybody confused on that part of it, so.
Me throwing the bomb out there, you mean?
Well, I just wanted everybody to be cautious. I
Yeah.
mean, I'd like to even run the treatment plant for a year and make sure I've got all the bugs out of it before I go down a path of committing to something that we may not be able to handle yet.
Well, I'm sure it's gonna be a year for sure, but. Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
Okay, so anyway, I don't know, Phil, you want to say any more, or?
I can.
Okay, come on up.
I'm kind of the one that prompted
Well, you wrote the report, so.
Well, I did, and actually, Phil Martin with Bolton Mink, I actually called Ted after our meeting last Monday, and I'm like, I said it to Mike Lyonnaise after, I'm like, wow, I didn't realize the city was going ahead with this study. I must have really written it bad, because that was not the intent. You know, I wrote some notes on here. This started, you know, because there was an issue identified at Moonlight Bay, and I alluded to that last week. And it was just that, you know, they have an on-site system, and it was failing. So they were looking for, are there options? And the city came forward and said, well, we'll look at some stuff. We did that preliminary engineer's report, but that was just for Moonlight Bay. And what we wanted to tell the city to look at from a higher level is, you need to kind of understand what your wastewater is in the city. How are you going to manage it? It's really a situation of kind of, as we've heard from last week, there's areas that they're never going to see a centralized collection system. It's just too far out, it's too expensive, doesn't make sense. A lot of public ownership, large tract land, not high density, small lots near water bodies. So what we wanted the city to do was, so when you're faced down the road, you're looking at pavement management, you're looking at your comprehensive plan update, what you want to do, what you want to grow to, you also need to understand your wastewater, because you have to marry all those pieces so that you can make an informed decision. And so, in addition to the targeted preliminary engineer's report for Moonlight area, we also looked at citywide, and that's where we came up with, you know, based on some of these criterias of lot size, density, water, public land ownership versus private land ownership, extent of the utility system right now, you know, we came to the conclusion that really you only, at probably full build-out, would look at extending sewer to about a third of the city. And that the rest of the city would be on-site or individual systems that fits very well with this, with your district that you're considering, like at Otter Tail County. And so we first looked at, kind of took the city, divided it into third could be sewered in the future, centralized to kind of discharge into your wastewater treatment plant that the city's invested in. The remaining 2/3 on sites only, won't be collected by the city, managed differently. So then within those, that third, we kind of looked at where the existing wastewater system was, and we looked at the first kind of rim around it of where you could develop. In the past, there has been studies down in the southeast part of the city, in the east part of the city towards Daggett, the western part of Daggett Bay, and now recently with Moonlight, that there's been consideration of should we extend sanitary sewer facilities or collection pipes to supplement and bring down to the wastewater treatment plant. So what this study really did was it took that first look at going beyond where you were today, which was only about 3% of the city, and getting some of these areas around the city. So Moonlight was the most recent area, and that was because of a failing system that, for the short term at least, and maybe longer, has been addressed with some rehabilitation. But that was the northern extension. There was a look at going to the east towards Daggett, the western part of Daggett Bay, because that was studied back in 2009 or 10, maybe 11. There was an area down to the southeast, Wildwood, which was studied. And then just, you know, within the last 2 years when we first started getting involved with the city had a capital improvement plan, which included some streets where there were still questions about whether you should reconstruct the street without looking at putting infrastructure in there. And that was down in the East Shore area. So really out of this study, what we determined was kind of where your existing system is, where you could expand around it and still not get to complete build-out in a centralized area, but also, you know, you still have 2/3 of the city that'll never get sewered. Those 5 areas that we identified have kind of potential first steps in extending utilities, which I'm going to just reiterate what Ted said. There's no time frame on that. That's decades out. That's probably opportunity driven. That's probably you have apartments or higher unit density come in. You may have identify sewage issues along the area on site where you need to do something more. But no time frame out there, but those 5 areas amounted to $14 million based on our estimates of 2018 dollars.
The only thing that I think is even somewhat credible that the city was considering doing and had actually hired us to get the survey information on was only the extension toward Moonlight Bay, the north extension. And that was about $1.2 million. The second phase in our priority, that again has no time frame, was about another 1.45, and that was to western Daggett Bay area. Again, part of the previous study that was done with recognition that these sites might have difficulty with future sewer because of their size. The third area was down into the east. And at that third area, we felt like based on the capacity that remained in the treatment plant, you might be at a point where you really can't extend any further. You might be looking to do some other things at the treatment plant to expand the capacity. So really, it wasn't go spend $14 million, and I apologize if you read that report and concluded that we were saying go spend $14 million. We were trying to show you what was a reasonable expansion over time with what you have today and what you were trying to take care of. So really, I tried to write this out to make sure I wouldn't forget it. What the overall takeaway from the study was is that the information regarding wastewater management in the city, the study provides information regarding wastewater management in the city and should be considered along with citywide pavement management planning, comprehensive planning, and other information so that decision-making is informed and creates capital improvement plans that, use the dollars responsibly and cost-effectively. It's a planning tool, and it's high level. So we're not telling you to spend 14. Just wanted to clarify that because we both were like afterwards, wow, I think that came out different than what we intended. So
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Phil.
I got one more thing. The plant was supposed to be substantial completion mid-December here. We're just about there, but we have one issue that's going on. Last Thursday, we had a whole lot of electrical engineers, specialists, and a whole lot of really expensive equipment doing monitoring of the treatment plant. And we have a harmonic distortion in the plant and what's happening. And what it is when we go to emergency power, everything's fine. When we come off emergency power and it switches back to normal Crow Wing power, things go haywire in the plant. We lose computers, we lose breakers, we blow fuses, and it's not the same thing every time. It's randomly around the plant. And what is the wave is going out and coming back too quickly, reflecting back to the generator. And when all this is happening, the normal power is trying to come back on, and they're bouncing against each other, and they're blowing this equipment and causing this damage. They're working on a solution. Bolton & Mink and these engineers are working on a solution. And it's right now it's kind of, this is the equipment we have and the equipment that was installed, and it just has this little, and the one engineer has been doing this 44 years and he'd never had it before.
And that's testing the backup generator is what's
It's
initiating
when it goes from, it's the switching. When it comes from the generator running, everything's fine. When it goes back to normal power, that's when this harmonic distortion happens.
And going from normal power to generator running, it's fine?
Yeah, it's this wave, as they call it, that's coming reflecting back, and that's when it's causing all the issues. So I just wanted all the council aware that we're still working on it. We're not done. Bolton & Mink has stepped up and is really, I think, doing due diligence to help us get it solved. So I just want the council to know about it. Thank you.
Bugs, thanks, Ted.
Ted, I got one other question for you.
Okay.
We've been balancing this assessment policy around since last June.
Yep.
I want to drop dead of April 1st.
I got
have
that,
it before the council.
I got that note. It's our February's one thing we have on the agenda to work on just that.
Well, then we can say March.
I should have it done by March. We have everything. It's just I have to get all of the. We have about 3 different opinions on some things in the policy, and we just have to get it settled. And we'll bring it forward for your approval. And we'll try to
Otherwise,
get
the
it.
council's going to have to make a decision on that.
No, and my goal is to get it to you early enough so you guys have time to look at it and digest it, so.
So to one-up you, Ted, while you're up here, I was going to talk about putting that first phase, Moonlight Bay phase, out for bids, and then starting the assessment hearings. Is there a reason we wouldn't want to put that out for bids in the event in the fall or next winter we were able to do that, start that project, we know what it is?
Other than funding, I suppose, no. I mean, we'd have to.
Well, whatever we do,
budget
it's
for
not
it
going to
and-
happen tomorrow, but it's just,
No.
it's another piece of information that we would know.
It's a possibility. I can't think of anything top of my head that would, why we couldn't go forward with it. We've got the engineering, the basic engineering on it. We could go
Survey,
forward.
I mean, everything's done, ready, that's the next step. Right?
Put it out for bids.
So
That's
do
what
we
it could
have
be.
any interest in doing that now as an exercise?
We have to have the assessment policy in place before we do that.
Yeah.
I mean,
But we
we're
also
going to
have
do it
We
anyway.
also have to have the bid too to set the assessment, don't we? Don't they both have to kind of go?
I suppose they go hand in hand.
We're not authorizing work to start or anything, we're just getting the bid?
If we can't authorize it tonight. I mean, if we want to use the assessment process, he's right. I mean, we first need to get our assessment policy in place, and then with 429, the statute that authorizes assessments, we need to make sure we're following the right public hearing notice schedule to get going.
Okay, but
So,
so just to
we
get
can do it this
bids
spring.
on it, to get bids on it,
The
that's
bidding process is
acting
part
too
of
fast?
the assessment process.
Okay, if that's how it is.
Doesn't mean you can't do it soon.
Phil's pretty
Can I weigh
anxious
in
there.
just ignorantly, but I want to make sure you're using proper terms.
Oh, boy.
Okay, so when you say bidding, I think you want to go out and get construction bids.
That's what I've meant, yes.
Okay. So all you have so far is a survey. You started an assessment process where you started talking about assessing in your community that is pretty significant, pretty substantial.
Right.
And you got to defend it. So you have the survey information, and there's also been a little bit of partnership coordination with Crow Wing County on a very high level about they could pay some of the costs. You have to go through and design it, get the assessment stuff out of the way, you actually take
Well,
the
the feasibility
feasibility
study,
report
right.
and accept the feasibility report, have the improvement hearing, get the public in to make sure at least you understand what they feel about what you're looking to assess. I don't even think you have an assessment policy for this, do you?
No, I don't think so.
No, that's why we have to, there's about 3 steps before we can do the,
Tons of steps.
Yeah.
I don't think, and by the time you then, I'm just going to say from experience, by the time you weed through that and then bid this, you're going to be outside of that sweet spot for competitive bidding, is my suspicion.
That's what I'm afraid of.
I'm not saying it can't be done, I'm just saying I don't know that I do know it's not a good direction, I guess is what I'm thinking, so,
Okay,
that's all.
but just trying to push the ball down the hill a little bit, prematurely, I take it.
I think the assessment work and stuff is some pretty heavy lifting, to be honest with you, and I think you'll have to go through that process. The
Okay.
engineering might be the easiest, construction too.
Okay?
Could I? Darrell Swanson, Dream Island Road. Just a quick history lesson. In 2004, when we put in the municipal system, and by the way, I did read your report today, and it's very good, and I like all those phases. But the history lesson was in 2004, the system was designed for 3 phases. There wasn't any time frame put with those. However, this being now 15 years later, I think it's time for the next phase. And that's what makes me so excited and why I want to be on the water quality. And I think, Mr. Mayor and Council, the water quality group will come back with a recommendation that I think hopefully will make sense, whether it's a sewer district and some expansion of the municipal, just a sewer district, whatever it will be thought through and make a presentation and a recommendation to you. And as Phil has said, and Ted and everyone else knows, and Brad, there will be a series of steps that we will have to go through. And having spent 6 years in that seat, the process sometimes seems like a long time, but at some point you kind of say, well, I guess there does have to be a process, because people are going to pay real money for this. This is really going to happen. And so we take our time and bring everybody up to speed as we go along. So it may not happen right away, but I have every faith that it will happen.
And all as I am anxiously waiting for is the next step.
The assessment.
Would it help the council if I put an outline together with all the steps on it?
Yeah, yeah. it would
I will
certainly
try to get,
educate me.
I will try to get something for you for the next time we meet.
Yeah, and if,
And in
you
fact,
know,
if
and
I-
I don't want to pin you down, but if we could have a timeline with it, would be awesome, you know, just so we can kind of anticipate, look forward to.
Well,
Or try to make that goal, or whatever, however we want to do it.
We'll see if we can put something together.
Great, thanks. Thanks, Ted. Anybody else?
Is this the public forum?
This is, I was just going to announce that.
Okay. I have one item for the public forum. You probably are very aware there are municipalities and cities, especially small cities, that sometimes have trouble putting quorums together. However, normally there's alternative dates. So I would ask, is there a date in February when at least 3 members can be present to have a quorum and conduct business, rather than skipping the entire month? That's
I'm
my
here.
first question.
Aaron and I are here, so it's up to you guys if there is. I mean, that would be awesome if we could do it. When are you
Last week in
back?
February.
Last week?
I'm here the last week.
You are?
I'm here after the 21st, but 22nd and 23rd are my meetings over at the Brainerd to have to go to for new council members. So 24th or later would be better.
Do the 23rd, that would be 2 weeks after the regular and 2 weeks before the March meeting.
That kind of sounds feasible, maybe?
Well, yeah, I mean, let's schedule it for that if we can, huh?
Because I would like not to lose momentum, and perhaps, Mr. Mayor, you could have these committees that you've appointed tonight make some preliminary reports to show you that they are working and they are making progress and all of that, and maybe with some timelines from them as to when they can make their full recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to set a meeting for February 25th.
25th?
Well, that needs to be a motion and a vote, but it's
Yeah.
a good idea.
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock? Okay, does somebody want to make that motion?
I'll make it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you to everyone.
Fabulous. Okay, anybody else for the public forum? City Attorney, Brad?
No report.
Old business?
I have one item for old business, as a follow-up. At our last, one of our previous meetings, you know, the question that came up is how much could we generate through a sales tax? And any guesses? No takers?
What's the tax?
0.5%.
Are you talking in a year?
Yep,
Quarter of a million.
in sales tax that we would get at the city. Okay, well, we did some looking, and it's off a little bit. If we move the decimal a few places, we had Shar Nelson contacted the Department of Revenue, and they have a sales and use tax division that specializes with local government services. And contacted them, Tuesday or Wednesday last week. They got back to us, and their tax research group pulled some numbers together. And I quote, a local sales tax in Cross Lake would generate about $240,000 per year at a 0.5% rate, and about $480,000 per year at a 1% rate. To implement a local sales tax, our startup fee, meaning the state would have a startup fee to do this, because they would be administering it for us, would range from approximately $18,000 to $28,000. This is a one-time fee and will be taken out of the first sales tax revenue generated before we make a direct deposit into your city's bank account. So it's way less than any of us thought it would be. I I guess the next question is, the process, we talked a little bit about the process to do that. You'd have to pass a resolution that would state the proposed tax rate, the intended use of the revenue, the amount to be raised, the expiration date, and the proposed tax must be passed by a majority of the political subdivision, meaning the voters, in a general election. So there's some, that'd be the second step. The third step, what the proposed tax must be passed by the legislature as a special law that authorizes the imposition of that tax. So it's not as simple as saying, well, we're going to have a sales tax, and here it is, and next month you collect money. You know, you're realistically at least a year away.
Yeah, I don't think anybody figured it'd be that easy.
If I could have public forum again, I think that's absolutely terrific, and I think the taxpayers of this city would thank you for that. You said you thought it's a lot less than a lot of people expected. Not me. Of course, you didn't ask me. What do they collect, for example, in the city of Brainerd, and what do they collect up in Walker? Did you call them to find out? You may want to call people that actually have a sales tax and find out what they're actually collecting. And it's good to have these estimates, but if you may find out it's more, may find out it's less, but that's real money. If you can get $250,000 into the coffers and off the back of the taxpayers to pay for some special projects, that's great. And it might be able to help pay back city bonds for all kinds of things, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's a new city hall, properly built at the right sizes to take care of the citizens. I think that's absolutely terrific. And yes, there are steps to be taken, but do not be deterred, because this is public service. And in public service, you have to jump through a lot of hoops to make things work. For some reason, the people in Brainerd decided it was a good idea, and so did the people in Walker. And I think our folks are just as bright and smart as those people, and if they want to, and if there's a vote on it, well, then we should have a vote on it. But please don't be dissuaded by it's too much work. That doesn't usually go over so well. Thank you.
Thank you, Darrell. Cindy?
Cindy Mewittel, the Cross Lake Chamber of Commerce. I may respectfully disagree with Darrell. I have heard from several businesses in the past week since that, came out last week. They're very alarmed by a sales tax. It is going to raise their cost of doing business. They're the ones that are going to have to accept this, take the sales tax, pay the sales tax. It's going to make more accounting work for them. I would propose that you all visit with the business community. We can certainly do a survey of the business community to see if there's a climate for it. I would also propose, and we could do, a survey of the Brainerd Baxter businesses to see how it's worked for them. I just think we need to do a little bit more research before we just slap a sales tax on the businesses in the community. That's my
Okay.
case.
Thanks, Cindy.
Can I say it? Can I say it? I agree. Back in 2003, 2004, we had separate meetings with the Chamber of Commerce and with the businesses. It all has to be transparent. They have to know if there's a 1/4 cent, 1/2 cent, whatever it happens to be. If you sell a boat or you sell an ice cream cone, this is how much it's going to be. And then decide, will people go to Pequot because of that? Or is it just not that much of a deal? And everybody can decide. But yes, it has to be, once again, a process. And that's why we met before with businesses as a group, individually, and I would encourage that to be done. And at the end of the day, it might be, well, everybody thinks it's not a big deal, so we're not going to do it. And that's just fine, too. But there's a process to go through.
Pat Netco, Cross Lake business owner and resident. Thank you, Darrell. And thank you, Cindy. I am very alarmed by sales tax. I understand some of the process of that. I think that the process does need to happen. It does need to go to the voters. And there's a huge difference in businesses for if you're going to buy a boat for $100,000 or an ice cream cone for $5, that's, the sales tax collected is not the same. However, in talking with other business owners and hearing different stories, how it does affect your business, I would like to hear from Brainerd businesses and how it does affect theirs. So there's a lot more to the story here, and I think other realms could be looked at. For instance, property tax. everybody pays property taxes. Could we increase that an amount across the board? I think there's other ways to look at this.
Okay, Pat, where this all started from was trying to get these 20,000 people that come up in the summer and don't pay any taxes other than normal sales tax to contribute to the area. Right? Not anybody who lives here. They're not paying property tax. They're just coming up and
They
enjoying the
contribute
area.
greatly to our area. They are why our area is what it is.
Yeah, that's true. But they're driving the cost of us people here and our property taxes going up by making accommodations for them.
I just want to hear the
So is there a
whole
way to get
story.
them to contribute? That's all.
I want to get the whole story, and I want to hear from other people who have done it before I would possibly even get
So
on
is the
board with
chamber
this.
a good avenue to get the other businesses, do you think, or how would you do that?
I think you guys can call and do a survey. I think Cindy has already talked about the chamber could possibly do a survey with the Brainerd people who are collecting the sales tax right now and how they feel it's gone for them and feedback that they've gotten from customers and if it's affected their businesses negatively or positively.
Yeah. Well,
That needs
definitely-
to be figured out before we just say, yes, let's do this.
So we can't do it unless it goes to a vote on a referendum on an
Right.
election year.
I think there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through before you
Right.
do this. So I just want to make sure that we hear the whole nuts and bolts.
And I'm just saying, I think it might be worthwhile to jump through them. And don't forget, Crow Wing County has a 1/2 cent sales tax, so you collect it every day for the county right now. So, and I don't know, you can, how does that affect business? I mean, Cass County has a 1/2, Walker has to have a 1.50 cents. That's a pretty big tax, probably more than we would have. But it would be good to talk to the Walker businesses too, and see what, how they've been affected. But you all pay a 1/2 penny right now to Crow Wing County as a sales tax.
Yeah, and gasoline taxes, how much do they fluctuate? I mean, we don't even know if it's just, okay. Okay, any old business? Any new business? Any business? I make a motion, we adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.